Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. I have Timothy Stuetz here with me today. Timothy went from a certified public accountant to an executive director and founder of Transformations, a nonprofit dedicated to assisting people of all ages to achieve their maximum potential, to a prolific children's book author of 86 books. Welcome, Timothy. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here, Tanya, with you and everybody listening.
Yeah, and so today, Timothy and I are going to dive into raising children through self-awareness, how to be a more present parent. And I am going to preface this with, I am not a parent. I do not have children. However, I am a child. And so I do feel that what we talk about today is absolutely relatable to pretty much any relationship in our lives. Right, Timothy?
Right on. The relationship with ourself, the relationship with our children, and the relationship with all of life.
Absolutely. So you have written 86 children's books that have helped not only children, but their parents heal as well. So let's talk a little bit about that. What guided you into writing children's books?
It's actually 88 now. I've two more have actually through in the last 3 weeks, which has been absolutely amazing. I started writing children's books by opening up a chocolate shop.
No.
Between being a certified public accountant and running seminars around the country, I woke up one morning and the first words out of my mouth to my partner were, if Hershey's can make chocolate kisses, I can make chocolate French kisses. And I did. That set me out on a path I ended up having to learn how to make chocolate, dip chocolate, form chocolate, sell chocolate, ship chocolate.
Which is not always easy in the warmer states.
No, it's definitely not. I was using good chocolate, and I didn't know that most chocolate has so much wax in it that they can ship it at any time of year. But there were certain times I could only use on the fly. And it was one day in that chocolate shop that I received a UPS delivery in a huge box that I did not order. The UPS driver would not take it back. And when I opened it, I saw 50 little teddy bears staring up at me. And how those bears got to me is another story entirely. But I wrote poetry. I'd been writing love poetry and philosophical poetry for a long time. So I got the idea of combining my poetry with some inspirational words of great teachers into a little book and packaging it in a box with that little teddy bear and called it Tales of the Heart. And when I got it all together and set it on the counter of the candy store to sell, my mom took one look at it and she said, "You blew it. That should have been a children's book."
Oh.
And yeah, and I looked at my mom and said, "There's not one line in there for children about children, and I don't write children's stuff." But my mom knew me on levels that I wasn't even in touch with me. And somehow, almost 6 months to the day later, I found the first idea for a children's story, Blissberry Barrel Starship, to help children and families figure out challenges in their life and to help them see things from a different perspective. So that's how I got into writing children's stories. And I never intended to write more than one, but they just kept flowing. The ideas kept coming in and I kept writing.
That's fascinating. So from public accountant to chocolate maker to children's book writer and to founder of Transformation. So when we talk about being present, being a more present parent, what does that look like to you? How do we explain that, when we are more being, more consciously aware of,
that connection with our children, or even our parents for that matter?
That's really a matter of learning to be present in every moment. So to stop our mind and come fully present with whoever or whatever is before us. So what that looks like is going to be different in every situation, but watch their body, listen to the tone of their voice, and really take in what they're trying to share with us.
Mm-hmm.
Without getting our mind involved and wanting to answer real quick, and being able to process things on deeper level and connect with that person, no matter who it is. And especially if it's a child, they really need to feel that they are number one, that we love them more than anything else. And we're not going to put them aside to take care of something that might not be so meaningful, because a little child, once they're damaged, it's really hard to correct the damage.
Absolutely. And, I think too, just honoring, oftentimes children will present, they don't always use their words, right? So they'll present in, aggressive behavior or a temper tantrum or trying to seek attention, or, there's a variety of ways that children communicate non-verbally, right?
Yeah.
And so as a parent, being more aware of that. And so where does self-awareness play into this? As a parent, being more self-aware of your upbringing and, the types of things that you may be presenting to your child or even teaching your child. How does that play a role in all of this?
Isn't that a divine dance? While we're parenting our children, we also have to be conscious of parenting ourselves so that we're not reacting from an old wound that we ourselves carry and put that on our child. So it's really a matter of, knowing our own past, undoing our own demons,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting those interfere with how we interact with our children, or with anybody for that matter. So we're parenting ourselves at the same time we're parenting our children, and having to watch that. And my experience with my own daughter and working with other people are, our children are here to teach us as much as we're here to teach them. So our children, they know our emotional body, they know our mental body. They sometimes are mirroring things like my mother knew me. They are mirroring things that we need to look at in ourselves if we're conscious enough to see them. So it's a dual game going on there. It's a wonderful exchange.
It is. And I've always said, if you have a problem in your life, go ask a 6-year-old. They'll probably give you the answer. And it's usually something very simple. And you're like, we're just overthinking it oftentimes as adults. And, children, they have this joyful, playful essence about them. And, when we as adults, the more we grow older and we kind of, get calloused a little more, so to speak. And it's so important for us to go back to, that those childlike feelings. And when we're around children like that, it really brings it out. At least for me, it does, that childlike essence that I sometimes lose, as we move into responsibilities and all of the things that we deal with as adults. And so, when we are being more present in our lives, we're in that now moment, it allows us time to pause. And in this society, pausing is tough. It's really tough. Not a lot of people are taking the time to pause. And when we take that time with our children to pause, it really allows them to sense and feel that we are giving them our undivided attention. And I can say that too with my parents, when I actually listen to them and, hear what they're saying versus just over talking them, or, preparing my rebuttal, for what they're going to tell me. it's definitely a different energy when you are there being present and in the pause. So, what's some advice that you can give to parents who may be struggling with being more present with their children?
Well, the pause that you just mentioned is so critical. Between every activity that you do, you pause.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since she said that, I do that. And that pause may be 5 seconds, it may be 10 seconds, it may be 5 minutes. So if I'm eating and when I get done with that meal, I'm literally going to pause,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to let that, it's almost like integrating something. You've gone somewhere, you listen to a talk or whatever. You just take time to integrate what just happened. So it's not running from one thing to another. Pausing is incredible. And even being present with something anybody can practice is as you're walking from room to room, let go of what you just did, let go of why you're going to where you're going, and just focus at the soles of your feet. Feel your feet hit the ground. Take time, even if you have to set a little alarm every hour, and just bring your hands to your heart and take a few breaths and reconnect with yourself. So these things don't take long, and they are so powerful, and it's like they reset our entire system, and they take us back to that inner child, that innocence, that slowness within ourselves. And it's funny, as you were talking about the 6-year-old, the first group of children that the energy comes down through your head and flows out your hands. And so there were 4 children in this class, and I asked, where do you think this energy comes from? And this little 6-year-old boy looks at me and says, it comes from your heart.
Oh, how sweet.
And that brought me back to, it's like that child knew, it wasn't a matter of light coming down through your head. I mean, that all happens, but he literally knew it was love and it was heart-based. And that heart connection, when we tap into that and are present for people with our heart, and we listen with our heart, then the appropriate response comes. We don't have to think about it ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Timothy, that as adults, we move from our heart into our heads, right? And as children, they're in their hearts, they're making decisions based off of how it feels, and they're using all of their senses. And us as adults, we move into that, overthinking and, when I use my heart, I get hurt, or, whatever our excuse is for not using our heart. And so that's a really good reminder for parents, is to feel with your heart, especially when you are communicating with your children, because they can sense that. Most children are highly empathic, and they pick up on things very easily, right? And so they can kind of sense when we're being genuine, or if we're just kind of blowing them off, or, just appeasing them, right?
Exactly.
So it's, remembering to, be present in the moment, but also, feeling through the heart and being genuine about that. When you're spending quality time with your children, doing things that, not to just do it on autopilot, but to really be present with your child, whether you take a walk together, or you go to the park together, or sit down and read a book, just really be present in that moment. And it doesn't take a lot for a child to feel that or to sense that. It doesn't have to be hours and hours. I mean, just sitting down with a child and reading them a book, right, for 15 minutes, but being present in that 15 minutes, that speaks volumes, versus spending 2 hours with your child and not being present at all, maybe being on your devices, your phone, your computer, whatever, right? They can sense that. And so, what's one, maybe one piece of advice from your books that you think is, could be valuable to the listeners today?
When you've written 80 of thousands of years worth of meditation practices, Qigong and Tai Chi, and breathing practices and principles of nonviolent communication and human development, the one thing that my books do that are different than any other book, almost any other book in the world, is I don't have pictures inside of my books, stories. There's a beautiful cover illustration, and that's on purpose because children being able to visualize and create internal images on their own is the foundation for their entire life. So when they can listen to a story and create their own pictures without seeing a static picture of what an adult thought should be on that page, they get to exercise their ability to create images in a way that can't be done any other way. Plus, that also allows space to create an interaction with the child and with the reader, because people see things from a different perspective. So after you read a page or after you read a couple of pages, you can actually ask your child, what did you picture happen? What did you feel? What did you smell? And then you can share what you experienced as the reader. And it might be completely different. And children can really start to learn experientially that we all think differently. We create images differently. And neither one's right. It's just what's happening. And if a child can learn that at a young age, oh my God, because there's so many adults that don't even know that.
Yeah, not even that, Timothy, just the aspect of visualization. And that's probably even helpful for the parents because, you know, as we get older, oftentimes we lose that sense of visualization or imagination. And so it sounds like your books are very interactive, not only for the child, but for the parent as well, which is amazing because it puts them both in that present moment of being creative and activating different senses within the body. And so that's fascinating. I love that.
There were so many stories that my daughter wanted me to read to her that I did not like. And I only read them because she loved them. And I pretended I loved them because she did. But when I started writing children's stories, I write from the perspective that I want the reader to enjoy them too, not just the listener. So I want they're written for the older people too. And I've learned from them, you know, over the 40 years I've been writing children's stories. It's amazing because they've developed my creativity. You know, 2 years ago, I really could not write much poetry that rhymed. And then all of a sudden, 2 years ago, every story that was being written was just all poetry and it all rhymed. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. So yeah, there's a lot of gifts in these so-called children's stories for children of all ages.
I love that. So Timothy, where can people find your books? Where can they find more information about you if they want to connect?
They're at timothystuetz.com, and you might have to put a www in front of it. And there's a freebie tab in the menu where there's an on-demand training for parents. It's called 3 Magical Wands for increasing your children's happiness, creativity, and empowerment. There's also songs, something for everybody in the family to sample what I have.
Excellent. Well, for all of you listeners out there, you know, whether you have children or not, check out Timothy's books. I mean, maybe you're struggling with visualization. It sounds like some of his books could be excellent for you to activate. I talk a lot about activating our pineal gland, activating our third eye, and oftentimes going back to reading children's books will help us visualize things that and activate areas in the brain. Like you talked about, you were activating poetry in your mind where you didn't have that before. So if we have to go back to, you know, feeling like a kid again and reading reading books, then so be it, right? That's something that we can really kind of value and be more present in the moment. So Timothy, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all that you're doing in the world and how you're helping children and families to spend more time together. And not only that, you're bringing in books. And I feel like, you know, in our society, not everybody, you know, has that desire to sit down and read a book like we used to, but this sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. And it's a good way to really connect with your children of any ages. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your energy and all that you bring into the world.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. It's been wonderful being here. And as you were saying about activating the pineal gland, I actually wrote a story called The Blue Pearl Starship Swirl that has exercises built within the story to do just that.
There you go.
And through fun and
I love that. And see, it's like those are just little things that we have to go back to. And we always think we have to do it a certain way. But hey, I'm going to check out that book because I've been actively working on my pineal gland myself.
All right.
Well, thanks, Timothy.
Oh, my pleasure.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT Tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.